The United Nations has expressed concern over pre-election violence ahead of Tuesday's vote in Liberia. Incumbent President George Weah faces several challenges as he vies for a second term. Front page of Africa editor-in-chief Lennart Dodoo is live for us now from the capital Monrovia. Lennart, appreciate your time this evening. Can you provide an overview of President George Weah's campaign launch for the upcoming presidential election, including the key messages and the atmosphere at the moment?
Well, President George Weah isn't taking the campaign lightly, even as an incumbent. He has been campaigning heavily across all the political subdivisions of Liberia. He's currently in the southeastern part of Liberia campaigning. And his key campaign message is that he believes that he has done more in his 6-year tenure compared to any other president that ever came before him. President Weah believes that he has constructed more roads, and he also believes that he has constructed more hospitals for Liberians. He introduced free tertiary education for public universities. So those are some of the major things that he's campaigning on. He believes that he stabilized the economy, and those are his main campaign messages that he's taking around the country.
Well, Lennart, you talk about his campaign messages. You also speak about what he believes he's done. What do the people of Liberia feel he's done? Are they in agreement, do you think?
Obviously, no, not every Liberian is in agreement with what the president is saying. As a matter of fact, he was fact-checked and realized that, no, he's not the president that has built more hospitals than, in this country. Most Liberian people actually do not believe that the actual bread and butter issues have not been addressed by President Weah. President Weah came to power on the backs of the downtrodden Liberians, those whose major concerns are daily sustenance and the cost of food, the cost of transportation, the cost of healthcare, and these things, these major essentials to Liberians continue to inflate the prices, and the costs continue to inflate. So not many Liberians may relate to what he's saying, but again, these are political times, and he has his followers who keep preaching that messages.
Now, you speak of followers, the presence of Joa Howard Taylor, and she's the ex-wife of former President and warlord Charles Taylor, and she's in President Weah's campaign. What is the impact of that? Has it raised any eyebrows? Has it garnered more support for him?
Well, the fact that she's the former wife of the jailed President Charles Taylor, who was jailed for war crimes and crimes against humanity, really has not affected in any negative way President Weah's campaign. As a matter of fact, it will surprise you to know that her stronghold, which is central Liberia, also used to be the stronghold of her ex-husband. And for some reasons, the people that reside in that part of Liberia, even though former President Taylor was jailed for war crimes and crimes against humanity, they still believe in him, they still love him, and have some level of respect and admiration for him. So, and that has to some extent extended to Madam Joa Howard Taylor, who is his ex-wife and the current vice president to President George Weah.
So let's talk about the upcoming elections. They are both presidential and parliamentary elections, and President George Weah goes against 18 or 19 other candidates. Are any of those worth noting? Who are his biggest rivals? And what is the message that they're telling the people of Liberia ahead of this election coming up?
Yes, you are correct. He's going against 19 other candidates in the race. And his biggest rivals are the former vice president, Ambassador Joseph Boakai. He also has a former Coca-Cola executive, Mr. Alexander Cummings. But most people see the elections, the presidential elections, as a two-horse race between the incumbent President Weah and the former Vice President Joseph Boakai. Mr. Boakai has been campaigning also heavily across the country, even though he has not been able to personally cover all parts of the country like George Weah has done. But his campaign message is that President Weah had no experience in terms of management, in terms of governance when he came to power, and therefore the country has retrogressed. And for that matter, Liberians should not give him another 6 years because that would take the country way backward.
Now, there are 2.4 million registered voters. Are you expecting all 2.4 million to turn out? In fact, what sort of voter turnout are you expecting? And do you anticipate a free and fair election?
In terms of voter turnout, we have a history for low turnout during elections. And this year, I do not think it's going to be any exceptional. There is going to be low turnout. And also, there are a lot of voters who up to now are undecided. Some may choose not to vote because I have been talking to people, and in as much as some of them do not want the return of President Weah, others also believe that his main rival, who is a former vice president, he was a vice president to ex-president Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He is 78 years old, and he's been heavily supported by a former warlord who happens to come from a vote-rich area. But the fact that he's been supported by a former warlord who also picked his running mate for him has turned a lot of people off and believe that we cannot continue to give power to such people in this country.
Now, finally, do you expect the elections to be free and fair? And what has been done by the Electoral Commission or the electoral body in that country to ensure that these elections are sufficiently transparent and are free and as fair as possible?
The National Elections Commission has continuously assured the public that the elections are going to be free and transparent, even though the main opposition party has raised a series of issues that they believe would erode the credibility of the elections. But one of the issues that they raised had to do with the National Elections Commission exceeding the voter per precinct threshold. So, for example, 3,000 voters to a voting precinct. However, they realized that there are about 93 precincts that exceeded the 3,000 threshold, the 3,000 voters threshold. But the Supreme Court of Liberia ruled on that today, stating that the National Elections Commission did not violate the elections law when it exceeded the 3,000 as stated in the law. So far, I think the National Elections Commission has been on the right path. Ballot papers have been taken to the various counties, which is the administrative divisions of the country. And the pre-packed election materials have also been delivered. The National Elections Commission on a daily basis hold press conferences to update the press, and they have assured all political parties that they are willing to address any issues that they may have in accordance with the law. So I have no strong reason or evidence for now to say that the elections isn't going to be free, fair, and transparent. Maybe unless on election day we begin to observe otherwise.
Well, we're happy to hear that, Lennart. Very quickly, once elections are done, when and voting begins, how soon do we expect to know who the new president of Liberia is?
So the National Elections Commission has up to, I think, 3 weeks to announce the president, the newly elected president. So even if they can do that within 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, they usually take their time and rely on the time frame that the law has given them to announce. So it is difficult to say when exactly, but we do know that within 2 weeks it is announced.
Lennart Dodoo is front page of Africa editor-in-chief. Appreciate you speaking to us on Africa Today.